I know I said that I probably wasn't going to be doing any further Destiny content on the channels. It's not the main focus and it's not the main interest of my audience. But seeing as how there's been some updates that have come out with Strand, the new subclass that launched with Lightfall, and seeing as how Strand is one of the things that I was critical of in my kind of reaction to Lightfall that was quite negative, as was the reactions of many other people in the community, I figured it's worth it to come back and at least talk about why I now actually really like Strand due to some of the changes that Bungie has made. So let's talk about it really quick. Hello everyone, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I know, again, I normally do strategy gaming content here on the channel, but plenty of people have said in my comments, do what you want to do, and you know what? Destiny is one of the things that I do really care about. So, seeing as how there's a little bit of a Bungie W in this particular topic here, I figured it's worth going over. So, when I last talked about Lightfall, beyond the story of Lightfall being atrocious, which it still is, fortunately some of the post-game stuff has gotten a lot better, but one of the things I talked about was how after unlocking Strand in the course of playing the campaign, it was quite underwhelming because the campaign gives you a lot of power boosts, a lot of reduced cooldowns, all sorts of different fun stuff like that that you don't have with the normal subclass. Apparently, that was one of the pieces of feedback that Bungie decided they wanted to act on most quickly, as there was a bunch of aspects, or well, just fragments, not aspects, that were locked. These are modifiers that you can apply to your subclass to kind of tune your build to be the way you want it to be. And there's a bunch of these that were locked until I think after the raid comes out, they were supposed to be locked. And kind of as a way to quell the quickly growing outrage, Bungie said, here, everything's unlocked. All the fragments are unlocked. Go nuts with Strand. And it turns out some of the best stuff to make Strand good was locked behind those fragments. So now that we have those, people have been building Strand builds, and we've been figuring out very quickly that Strand is actually very, very strong, and it's a ton of fun to do. So, being the Titan main that I am, and seeing as how it's apparently the way that Bungie wants us to play, as they've talked about in interviews and things like that, I wanted to go for an all-in close quarters combat build, and that's what we have going on here. I'll go through like my weapons and gear first, then I'll talk about my fragments and my mods. So, first off, the new Strand SMG Synchronic Roulette has been really nice. I don't have many kills on this one as I just got this one. I just got this to drop. This has actually been an excellent gun. So what does it have going for it? Well, it is a fairly accurate, low magazine count, but decently high impact for an SMG gun. It's got Envious Assassin, new perk. Rapidly defeating targets with other weapons for drawing this one. Transfers ammo to the magazine from reserves, so you can get a massively increased magazine. Obviously very nice. Then it comes with another new perk, which is super cool. I really like this one. Hatchling. Precision final blows, rapidly defeating targets with a non-precision weapon, spawns a threadling at the target's location. Threadlings, basically little strand bugs, run at enemies and explode. So periodically you're just going to get little auto-aim grenades, essentially. That'll run along the ground and attack stuff for you when you kill stuff with this weapon. On top of that, the intrinsic origin trait of all of these Neomuna guns is nanotech tracer rockets. Landing multiple hits, period, don't even have to be precision, just hits, turns your next shot into a homing micro rocket. So I have an SMG that can have like dozens upon dozens of rounds in the mag, creates auto-aim explosive bugs, and periodically just firing off micro rockets. It's pretty dope. This thing has been a ton of fun to play around with, and like it's very satisfying to fire. Just look at this thing. It's just, it's so nice. It's so nice. The green is awesome. It sounds good. It feels good. It's great. Next up, we have my handy-dandy Icarus shotgun. I don't quite have the crafting materials I need to get these perks up to their ascendant versions, their upgraded versions, but even as it is, this shotgun has been a staple for me. Basically, all you need to know, Feeding Frenzy. Each rapid kill with this weapon progressively increases reload speed for a short time. So you're in there, you're in the thick of the fight, you're taking stuff out, you're reloading faster, you're continuing on. Incandescent. Defeating a target spreads Scorch to those nearby. More powerful combatants and opposing guardians cause Scorch in a larger radius. So basically, you kill something with this shotgun, it explodes and puts fire damage on all nearby enemies, which then makes them explode and spread fire damage. And it's great. It's basically like a micro rocket launcher in all sorts of function. And then breaking a target's shield partially reloads this weapon's magazine. So sometimes I don't even need to worry about reloading. If there's enough stuff with shields that I can break, I can just essentially have infinite ammo. Obviously, having a shotgun in melee range, very good. This has been a standout for me. Then something I've been experimenting with, well, really two things. I've been going back and forth. Right now, I'm using the Lament exotic sword, and I've also been using the Deterministic Chaos exotic machine gun. The Lament really synergizes more with the build here, so let's talk about this really quick. Essentially, this is a chainsaw sword, for those of you who don't know. And when you have it revved up and deal damage to anything, you actually get healed. So you just charge it up, which blocks while it's charging, so you're taking reduced damage, and then you just go in swinging, and you start getting health back as you're carving through enemies. Obviously, melee range, very, very good. You're going to be taking a lot of damage. Stuff's going to be punching you, stuff's going to be shooting you, you're going to get knocked around. It's fine, though. You just have a sword. You just have a sword that heals you. It's excellent. There's really not a whole lot else that needs to be said about that. Conversely, if I need a little bit of extra range, I have been using the Deterministic Chaos. This doesn't really synergize with my build so much, but it is nice because it allows me to weaken targets and just generally deal extra damage, make enemies volatile, which makes them explode, all sorts of fun stuff like that. So it's just a good ranged option. It deals good damage. Not really synergistic with the build, but I mean, it gives me options at the very least. As far as my armor is concerned, you know, legendary armor, you don't really need to worry about what it's doing other than what its stats and its mods are, which we'll go over. My goal here was to have a balance of resilience and recovery. So it takes a little while to bring my health down, and then once it is down, it comes back more quickly. Would it be better to specialize into one of these? Possibly. But I figured getting both of them to tier 7 is pretty damn good. Got 20% damage reduction, 23% recovery rate increase. Nice. Now, this is a melee range build, so having a maxed out strength score obviously makes sense. Decreases the cooldown time of your melee ability, allowing you to use it more often. And I mean, yeah, that's what I use. My melee with Strand is awesome. Like, this is my Strand melee. Just go in with these claws. You get 3 charges of it, and it comes back fairly quickly with tier 10 strength. So I want to have that up as much as possible, in part because my exotic armor I'm using is the Syntheseps. These are awesome. This is a Titan classic. Increased melee lunge range, improved melee and super damage when you're surrounded. So again, close quarters combat. I'm in the thick of it with the enemy. I've got my SMG, my shotgun, my sword. I want to be on top of the enemy. And when I'm on top of them, they're on top of me. And that means I'm doing more melee damage, I'm doing more super damage, and I'm going to be attacking from further away, so it's easier for me to reach out there and touch somebody, you know? It's just good. And again, the Strand is insane. Again, it's a melee super. So I'm just going in there, and now I've got my Syntheseps are just going ham, making me do even more damage because it's a melee super. So I'm just swinging on things, and the damage output has been gross. So that's very, very strong. Obviously, you can see I've got my themed drip here as well, which I'm quite happy about. Very angular, sharp, nasty looking, kind of cyberpunky. Very good. For my fragments, the aspects can't really change anything. Like, this is what we've got. Titans have the same stuff no matter what. Class ability allows you to suspend enemies, and then destroying a tangle gives me woven mail, which is good. We should talk about that. Woven mail gives you increased damage reduction. So basically, if I can destroy a tangle, which I'm generating with any of my Strand stuff, I'll get increased damage reduction for 10 seconds, and I can chain that. Every time I destroy a tangle, I get more woven mail, so I'm even harder to kill. The melee that I'm choosing to go with right now is the grapple, because even though it's not a great traversal tool, unfortunately, you do have the grapple melee that is extremely strong. During and shortly after grappling, your melee attack deals extra damage and unravels targets. So, with my Syntheseps, I grapple into a group of enemies. I'm now in range of a group of enemies, which means my melee attack is stronger. I use the grapple melee. It deals a ton of damage in a wide area to a whole group of enemies. It basically allows me to one-shot that whole group. And anything that's left, I still have my normal melee that I can go in on them with. So this has been quite good. I'm not sure if I like it more than the Shackle Grenade. The Shackle Grenade is a good kind of suppression tool because it'll suspend multiple targets in an area, taking them out of the fight for a good 10 seconds or so, making them very vulnerable to damage. They can't defend themselves. It's really, really nice, but the grapple melee has been really fun. In terms of my fragments, I have the Thread of Transmutation. While I have Woven Mail, Weapon Final Blows create a Tangle. So I get Woven Mail, increases my damage resistance. Every time I kill an enemy with a weapon, it creates another Tangle. So now I can destroy those Tangles to give myself more damage reduction. Just chain it back and forth. As long as I'm paying attention and getting those Tangles destroyed, I'm going to be infinitely harder to bring down. Thread of Warding, picking up an Orb of Power grants Woven Mail. Again, redundancy. Maybe I don't have a Tangle that I can destroy, but I still need that Woven Mail up because I need to be able to survive the damage I'm taking in melee. Boom. Pick up an Orb of Power that I'm making with my weapons. I'm making with my super. Other players are making. I have Woven Mail again. Damage resistance through the roof. Thread of Generation. Dealing damage generates grenade energy. So, by getting my grenade back more quickly, I'll be able to grapple again, which is another melee. It's just good. And it gets you a lot of grenade energy very quickly. Like, it's surprising how quickly you can get that back. And finally, Thread of Fury. Damaging targets with a Tangle grants melee energy. So again, I'm relying on my melees a lot. I want to have Woven Mail so that I can resist the damage that I'm taking while I'm in melee. Well, can get my energy back by damaging targets with a Tangle, which is what's going to make me have Woven Mail, which is then going to allow me to melee more. You see where this is going? It's pretty nasty. It's pretty nasty. Finally, as far as my mods are concerned, I don't have anything too tricky here. I have a bunch of recovery boosting stuff, again, to get that recovery up. I've got hands-on, gain super energy on melee kills, which I mean, again, my whole point is to melee. Then I get my super, that is also a melee, so it's all synergizing with Synthocept, so I'm just in there swinging constantly, fitting the theme of Berserker, you know? Then we have Font of Wisdom. Collecting an Orb of Power causes you to gain Armor Charge, which is good. Again, I want to get Orbs of Power to get Woven Mail. It also gives you super energy back, and then now I have Armor Charge, which is going to synergize with some of my other stuff. Focusing Strike. Grants class ability energy when I cause damage with a melee attack. So again, I can get my shield, my actual like physical wall shield that I can put down, this bad boy right here. So now I can take cover behind this. I'll be able to reload my weapons faster, and that shoots out a Suspending Burst that will make targets hang, and I won't be able to get attacked by them. They won't be able to defend themselves. It's good stuff. Font of Vigor. Collecting an Orb of Power causes you to gain 1 temporary armor charge. We talked about that. Melee Kickstart. Collecting an Orb of Power causes you to gain 1 temporary armor charge. When my melee energy is fully expended, I gain melee energy. Additionally, your armor charge is consumed and you gain additional melee energy for each stack. So now, I'm getting all of this armor charge from all these different things that I'm doing. Then, when I use up my melees, this will kick in, and it'll restore them, so I'll actually have more melees again ready to go, so I can just keep swinging. Again, the synergy, it's nasty. Font of Endurance. Collecting an Orb of Power causes you to gain 1 temporary armor charge, gain a bonus to Resilience while I have any armor charge. So now, whenever I have these Orbs of Power and armor, again, I'm even harder to bring down. Stacks with my Woven Mail, very good. Increase the number of stacks of armor charge I can carry, just makes it easier for me to have more resources to fuel this stuff. Increases the energy recharge rate of your equipped swords. So now, when I'm using the Lament, I'll be able to get the block back more quickly, which means I'll be able to get my healing attack back more quickly. Just makes it easier for me to restore my health in an emergency when I need it, which is good, because Strand doesn't really have much in the way of self-healing, which is, you know, kind of a downfall, so we're building to compensate for that. More armor charge for Orbs of Power. All ability cooldowns go down each time you pick up an Orb of Power, which we're generating a bunch of. So again, get our abilities back even faster, which then feed into each other. Empowered Finish. Finisher Final Blows grant you a temporary armor charge. And collecting an Orb of Power, more armor charge. Finishers restore melee abilities. So now, if I need armor charge, I can finish an enemy, which will also restore my melee attacks, which means I'll be able to start going in and getting this whole chain going again. And finally, Outreach reduces melee cooldown when using your class ability. So, everything here is just a recursive loop. It feeds back into my abilities. Triggers regeneration. Triggers armor charge. Triggers my melee regeneration. Triggers armor charge. Back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It's very, very nice. It's been an absolute blast. And again, you get to just do stuff by, you know, grapple around. Whee! Melee. Swing, swing, swing. Pull out the sword. Block. Attack. All that type of good stuff. I mean, it's just so much fun. It's just so much fun. The main issue is that when you have your sword out, you can't do your normal melee. And if you try to, like, grapple while you have your sword out and then do the grapple melee, it'll just do a sword melee instead. So you kind of have to have the forethought to, before you grapple, switch to a gun, grapple, then do your melee. But I mean, for the most part, it's really not that big of a deal. And that's kind of just a mechanical skill issue, learning curve type of thing. Once I get that down, it'll be pretty damn nice. So yeah, that's pretty much the Strand build that I have going on right now. It seems really good. I've been using it in just general content. It's been a ton of fun in Gambit. It's been... What remains? Campaign? Huh. I didn't realize that I could replay that there. Interesting. But yeah, it's just been a ton of fun to use. I'm hoping to take it into some solo dungeon content, see how it performs. It'll be nice to use something other than my solar restoration build. We'll see if it can compete with that. And who knows, maybe I'll even be able to eventually bring this into raids and whatnot, but we'll see. Tomorrow is the raid race, so I'll be watching that. And then, of course, you know, I don't have that much other Destiny content planned, so we'll be back to doing Tactics Ogre and Fire Emblem and all that. So thank you to everyone who's watched. Those of you who've been playing Destiny, have been enjoying some of the not campaign things in Lightfall. I'm right there with you, and I hope the raid race goes well tomorrow. But that said, again, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there, and remember, be good to each other. Bye now.